And welcome to this edition of Security and Compliance Weekly. I took a week off last week. I hope you don't mind, and I hope the guys held down the fort. I actually did watch the episode, and I think they did a pretty good job, but we need to talk PCI a little bit more. Anyway, we are joined on today's show by Danny Akacki. He is a journeyman storyteller and currently a security advocate at Splunk. Our topic today is cybersecurity evangelism and how to get people talking, listening, and taking action when it comes to all things security related. We're expecting an interesting and sort of open-ended conversation today, and we certainly invite our listeners to participate by way of the Discord server. So join us as we continue our journey of tearing down silos and building bridges on Security and Compliance Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production. And now, it's the show that bridges the requirements of regulations, compliance, and privacy with those of security. Your trusted source for complying with various mandates, building effective programs, and current compliance news. It's time for Security and Compliance Weekly.
Welcome to episode number 76 of Security and Compliance Weekly, recorded on June 15th, 2021. I'm your host, Mr. Jeff Mann, and with me today are my well-traveled co-hosts, Mr. Scott Lyons, Mr. Josh Marpet, and Ms. Kat Valentine. Welcome, everyone. Kat, I feel like we haven't seen you in months. Sorry, Scott.
No, I was going to say it's good to have you back in the hot seat, Jeff.
It's good to be here, and thanks for filling in for me last week, Scott. I think you did an admirable job.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll be willing to do it again, that it didn't freak you out too much.
Nah. You know, I just have to be able, I have to be sure I can PCI to PCI your PCI about PCIing your PCI. Yeah, let's go with that.
We should talk about that. You guys tried, but we need to straighten out a few things as time progresses. Hey, before we jump into it, we have a few announcements. Security Weekly, at least some of us, are ecstatic to announce that Security Weekly Unlocked is going to be held in person this December 5th through 8th at the Hilton Lake Buena Vista. That's in Florida, in case you didn't know. Call for presentations and early registration for Security Weekly listeners is open now. You can visit securityweekly.com/unlocked, submit your CFP, or register for early registration prices before it expires. Come on. We want to get together and have fun at a real conference. Also, join us June 10th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for our technical training on insider risk to learn how to quickly mitigate data exposure risks. Then join us on June 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to learn how web application firewalls can help mitigate exposure in a complex threat landscape. Visit HTTPS, and why am I reading an announcement for June 10th when it's June 15th? Just saying. Sorry about that.
You see how difficult it is?
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all you do is copy and paste the content, you can blame somebody else. Well, it wasn't on the website, at least an hour ago when I pulled it. Anyway, the June 24th one on web application firewalls is one that you can still look forward to. You can get there by going to securityweekly.com/webcast to register. And you can check the June 10th one out and any of our other previously recorded technical trainings and webinars by going to securityweekly.com/on-demand. All right, enough of that formality. Let's start talking to our esteemed guest today, Mr. Danny Akacki. Some of us might know him better as Rando, either from the Twitterverse or from hacker conferences. You remember when we used to go to hacker conferences? They're coming back.
So long ago.
Unlocked. It seems like it's forever. Welcome, Danny Rando, to the show. How would you like us to refer to you, I guess, is the first question.
Man, Jeff Mann can refer to me however the hell he pleases. Danny,
get ready to bleep what I was about to say, Johnny. Just kidding.
Especially with those eyes in the background.
Man, right. Hi, Jeff. I'm so stoked this is like one of the first ones that I've gotten to do since things are like kind of starting up again. And God, I love you guys so much. How are you?
Obviously, you love me since you have me staring at you all the time.
It's a little creepy, but
I'm
only a
actually
little. It is Jeff.
Quite a while now.
Yeah, I don't know when we. Maybe you remember. I don't remember the exact circumstances when we first met, but ShmooCon, Circle City Con, DEF CON, they all come to mind, and they're all just memories at this point.
My gut tells me we actually got to know each other at Circle. I think I had seen you and did the whole fanboy thing, and you are easily one of the most easygoing, approachable people that I've ever met. And then like it went from me fanboying to just, hey, Jeff's a buddy of mine now. And then it's just one of those things. You're one of those quintessential attendee, old guard of highly respected people around here. And I love seeing you all the time. So imagine my joy when you messaged me and said, hey, you want to come on? Of course I want to come on. I don't care if I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I'll come hang out with you. And Scott and Kat and to a lesser extent, Quadling.
I just want to say you have the PCIs of justice over your shoulder.
That's Corner Jeff. Jeff watches
the PCIs. PCIs, EYES. Yeah, never mind. Anyways, go.
Or as we played on PSW last week, Stump the Grump. So feel free to ask me any PCI questions you like. Yeah.
Corner Grump.
Well, I think the last time we saw each other in person, I'm pretty sure was ShmooCon 2019, because that was pretty much the last hacker conference there was, at least of a major sort. And that was when we said, "Hey, well, there was a 2020, but you're right, it was 2020.
It was 2020. Yeah.
It was the beginning of 2020 because things didn't shut down till like March of 2020. My apologies. So it's only been a year and a half. It seems like forever. We invited you then, Scott and I did, to consider coming on Security and Compliance Weekly. So it's about damn time we got you on the air. Our apologies. We've been busy. But for our listening audience, if you would please tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into cyber and security and hacking and all that, and particularly tell us about how you got to be where you are today as a passionate storytelling security advocate.
Oh man, absolutely. And every time this is one of the second times that I've come on one of the empire of Security Weekly, and I love telling this story of when I first got into security about 10 years ago now. I did IT for about 10 before that, and then decided there's 100,000 people who can do what I do for cheaper, and I've always been interested in this hacking thing. So I got into security, and one of my first gigs was at this SOC down in Philly. But it was a third shift, and I would have to commute via my car and a train to go into Center City. And the one show that kept me company that whole time, because I was still coming up and I was learning, was it used to be called Paul's Security Weekly, now Security Weekly, and that's also where I learned that it's funny. One of the things that I always hear now is I've always assumed that companies like Huawei were just shell companies for criminals, and then I realized much later that they're actually legitimate companies. I learned that from Security Weekly. I did that. I commuted and I did a bunch of SOC gigs for that, and I would listen to things like Security Weekly, and then from there did a lot of defensive stuff, blue teaming for places like GE and Bank of America, and then I slowly kind of started moving into the evangelism realm without really knowing it. I love speaking, I love writing, I love doing my own streaming stuff, and I realized that it's a lot more fun for me to take the stuff that I learned the hard way coming up, because I did a lot of the hard way business things, things kind of got dicey for a while, and I love doing talks. So I started giving talks at conferences when I finally discovered what conferences were. And then from there, I started going on staff at conferences. I'm on staff at DEF CON as a SOC goon. Circle City and all these different places. And then I started getting gigs that involved still hands-on keyboard things, but also with the evangelism tint to it. So I've done that for a few different places. Now I'm a security evangelist advocate here at Splunk. And it's just been a natural progression of, I love this stuff so much, and I love all of the people that I've met that have taught me all of the things like hardware and lock picking and just all these different things, red teaming, and being able to translate that to people and then building communities around. Like it's my absolute favorite thing in the world. If security, the industry proper, didn't allow me to do that, I'd have to find somewhere else that did. But luckily, I'm just so incredibly lucky, and that's how I am here today. From 10 years ago, being on a train at 10 o'clock at night, listening to Security Weekly.
Well, that's sounds like it's been quite a ride, metaphorically, if not realistically. This is a show that focuses or tries to focus on not only security, but also compliance and sort of the tension and friction that occur between the two. In that light, we like to ask all of our guests what we call the hot seat question, which is simply, and I put this to you, Mr. Akacki, where do you fall? What is your opinion or view on this thing that we like to call the security versus compliance continuum?
So, I actually see compliance as actually an important part of security. Now, not a lot of people. I'm amazed at the more I delve into the business end of things, how polarizing it can be of people considering compliance not security at all or a pivotal part of security. I happen to fall in that it is a pivotal part of security, mostly because nobody really wants to do it. There are very dedicated people that love doing it. I have a buddy of mine that I work with where I'm at now that he's like a compliance god. But I see it as a crucial part. Yeah, we can joke all we want about, oh, it's just checking a box and blah, blah, blah. But it's also a framework, right? Like it's also, those boxes need to be ticked because sometimes that's all you have, and at least it could be kind of like a jumping off. So I fall in that that compliance is a crucial part, and obviously not the only part, maybe not even the most important part. But yeah, I recognize it as part of that entire ecosystem, and some people might disagree vehemently with me on that, but I don't care.
Well, the good news is that it's an opinion question, and your opinions are your opinions, and they're by definition not right or wrong. You can be right or wrong, but your opinions are not. How's that?
Except when I'm talking about what the best pizza is, but let's save that for a different episode.
Or PCI. When you talk about PCI, your opinions can be wrong, as per Mr. Jeff.
Pineapple and ham.
But I will point it out to you delicately.
I happen to agree with your opinion, Danny. It's I always see it as like you were saying, a jumping point for if an organization does not have a lot of different stuff in place. It's a jumping point and a roadmap. It's something for them at least. But then also on the flip side, and I don't think a lot of people consider this too much, but compliance is the way to get your C-levels to give you more money, to put into place actual security stuff. So I very much, I agree with your opinion there.
Bing, 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 100%.
100%. And that's one of the things that when Jeff and I were talking pre-interview a couple weeks ago about the whole community building and things like that, and having to get buy-in from people, because the community building for me is translation of technical to somebody who doesn't speak technical. So, the executives' eyes are going to glaze over if you can't give them something that they understand, right? There's a lot of compliance people that don't understand about security at all, and that's when it falls into like, oh, this is a joke, whatever. But having that language to translate to is critically important, because you're not the one, as a rank and file analyst or whatever, or even a technical manager, that holds the purse string. So how do you convince them to do that?
Yep. I consider myself a tour guide and a translator, working primarily in compliance. So,
well, not just how do you do that, but how do you do it without spitting out FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and really scaring C-levels?
Yep.
You know,
It's-
they have a
it's
lot
about
that they have
risk.
to worry
It's
about
not
on
about-
a daily basis. Well, they have a lot that they have to worry about on a daily basis, from risk, like Josh just said, to compliance, Danny and Kat, to maybe, I don't know, PCI, like Jeff said. The real key is, how do you take tech and speak business so that C-levels understand and can articulate to the board, to everybody else, what the value and vision matchup is for security, and be sure that the budget is appropriately sized.
Right, and that's one of the and that's it's super important, because that everything from then on trickles down, right? Because if you can't justify like existences, if you can't explain these things to them, then all of a sudden those executives are going to make company-wide decisions, whether they be cuts in budget, cuts in manpower, cuts in whatever, and if you haven't adequately described what you need using this translation, like that affects a whole lot of stuff. I always encourage people. I never used to care about the business end of things. I was a technical guy. I got into security as InfoSec, and then I became a hacker, right? Like then I got into the actual hacking part of it, and then I started caring less and less about what all those stuffy executives thought. I'm doing my thing and blah blah blah. And then I started to really see we have to convince them of things, not just convince them just by FUD, right? FUD has a place. Some people just absolutely are going to stick to their guns and they don't want to hear what you have to say, and then maybe scare them a little bit. However, I think that the FUD hammer is used far too often, and the beginning of the chain when you're trying to convince people. And I think if you're leaning on that whole fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you just don't have a grasp of your craft. You don't have a good grasp of what you're actually talking about if you only lean on fear to get things done.
Absolutely agreed. Danny, let's switch gears a little bit here. So you're working at Splunk as an evangelist. What does that entail? I've got to ask.
Sure. So there are actually a lot of different evangelists here. So Splunk, I know for a lot of us, at least for me personally, when I first started in security and you're learning these tool sets and things, one of the first things people tell you to use is Splunk, because you get the free version and blah, blah, blah. So, but once I got here, I realized our security practices, there's so many people, like well-known hackers, that work here. So there are people that will evangelize outwardly. They are the ones that you'll see giving the interviews on, CNBC, and then there's the ones that will go and talk to like the high level executives and hold those meetings. I'm actually like a internal evangelist. I always say that I'm trying to raise profiles of those amazing hackers that I know work here and security pros, and say, what are you doing? What are you working on? Right. Let's get that out via whether it's like, I do a lot of streaming on Twitch, right? So now I do that here at Splunk. I say, I basically interview employees here within our security practices and say, hi, I'm here to evangelize. Like, what are you doing? What are you working on? Like, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to do interviews? And then I bring them on Twitch and we do interviews and we just kind of, shoot the bull for an hour and talk about technical stuff. Not shilling, right? It's not like a shilly type thing.
No. You're exploring, you're explaining, you're discussing what can be done, what is done, what happens. No, that makes sense.
And then through that, it's amazing because, it's a pretty big company. I didn't actually realize how big it was until I got in here. And there are so many of those talented security professionals, those talented hackers who work in the same company that don't even know about each other, right? Like there are friends of mine who work here who didn't know until 4 months later that I was here, because it's just that it's a big machine. So that's what I see my gig as connecting these people, getting to know who does what, and then disseminating all of that information out to people and just saying, hey, we have some really great talent here. We have I hate using it, but I find myself using it more often because I've been tainted by marketing, but the thought leadership stuff, we have people that are really doing very, very cool things. Like we have the guys like Ryan Kovar. If nobody knows who he is, look him up on Twitter. The man is just an epic security professional, epic hacker. So getting that out, getting people internally to meet each other, and then getting that information out. That's my thing. I love is not even a word for that for me. That's what really gets me up every day. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah, Amelie Karan. Amelie Karan is one of your counterparts, right?
She's on my team. Yep, she's actually the one who I had saw. I was at a different company previously, Gigamon, and things were winding down there. And I saw some posts that she had put up, and she'd been a friend of mine for a few years now, since like DEF CON 25 was when I met her. And yeah, that's how I got in. She got me hooked up in the whole interview process, and then it was just really fortuitous, like how it happened. So
yeah, and April Wright as well.
April Wright, epic. I keep using the word epic because like it's the only word that comes to mind for people like this. April's fantastic. I've known her for a bunch of years now too. And again, like that's just, and I didn't even know that she was here until I got into that interview round. Again, that's what I'm talking about. People just don't know who is where. And it's just awesome. It's awesome to kind of dig up those gems in there and get to work with them.
Now, you mentioned that you have a Twitch stream, and I've been a guest on your Twitch stream a couple of times. Can you say the name of your Twitch stream, and then what is it, just so that people can hear it?
Yeah, absolutely. I came up with the name Second Order Chaos, which I stole from a different book. It's kind of a way about disseminating, or not disseminating information, but kind of how to control information coming out of. You know, like there are things you can control. There are things you can't control, but you can shape them. That's called Second Order. And I forget which book it is, and I probably owe the guy royalties. But anyway, it's called Second Order Chaos because it's just the way that I like to put information out. It's at 20C Stream, and you can find it on Twitter. And honestly, it's just I have taken my cues, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from shows like Security Weekly, you know, from shows like Thug Crowd and things like that. And I've met so many amazing people through conferences and things like that, and just being around. And I said, someday I'm going to go away, you know, for natural or otherwise. But there's all this information that I've learned and all this really cool stuff. How do I get that out to people so it stays out there? When I'm long gone, right? Like, how do I get this out and saying, I did this to put this up so you can listen to it if you have questions? One of my favorite things to do is, you know, for people who run villages at DEF CON, I will get the organizers on and say, let's just chat. Let's just have a conversation. Like, what do you do? Like, what is this? How did it come? And we have a natural conversation. And then that thing is up there in perpetuity. And if somebody new to the community comes in and says, hey, what's this thing I heard about? I got a whole video on it. Go check it out. I have a whole video series on how to stream, stuff like that. So,
well, it's funny. It's funny that you'd say that, because that's exactly where I was headed. There are very few resources for people that are brand new to the industry to be able to understand why we're so passionate about what we do. And if you have a chance to go and check out Danny's Twitch when it's up, I'd highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. You go above and beyond in training people that are brand new to the industry, right?
I you know what, I try, and also all the other thing on Twitch too is that stuff. Even I'm like a partner or something now, but that stuff will eventually disappear. Everything is also up on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/Second Order Chaos, fully spelled out. But yeah, I will. Like, sometimes I'll just I'll get bored and I'll get an itch to go stream something, and I'll go out on Twitter. I've been very fortunate to like meet a lot of people on this particular platform and say, who wants to know about stuff? Like, I have an itch to teach you about streaming. Like, would anybody be interested? And if there is, my thing has always been, and this is why one of the things that you hear very often from new people who have come in, even people who've been around for a while, and they say, I did this really cool thing, but I heard about it just talking to them face to face. I said, oh, is this up anywhere? Do you have a blog? Do you have it? No. People have done this 1,000 times, and it's probably not worth it. And I always tell them, do it anyway. Because is that person you? Do they have your life experience? Is it colored with your own biases or colored with your own experiences? No, then put it out there. So every time I do anything, I hope and I picture this one ephemeral person. I'm not even hoping that I get 20, 30, 40 people to watch it. If there is one person that's going to find this useful, and I make the bet that there is, I will do that thing. and I don't care how crazy it might be. Like I've done 24-hour streams, like charity streams, and like really dumb things, like ghost pepper at 2 a.m. type things. Because no, it's like I've hurt myself. I've made myself look exceedingly ugly.
That's what I was going to say. Like, do you gear your sessions towards a particular topic, or do you gear them towards passion and let that passion come out?
Yeah, passion. I mean, there's going to be an overarching thing, like there's going to be a thing on streaming or blue teaming or red teaming or whatever compliance. But then we let the conversation go, and we let it go wherever it wants to, as long as those people that I am talking to, where you can just feel that passion come out, and you can feel the interest, and you can feel the excitement about things. You're never going to see me do like some kind of and all of my stuff is not pre-canned. It's always like I have a general theme, but like I just do.
Oh things. No, it comes straight out of your skull, dude. We know that. Trust me. It comes straight out of your skull, and often the filters have been disabled on the way. Okay, and you're just like I
have had opportunities to work with both Quadling and Casper. They have indulged me multiple times, both on charity.
No. Not indulged. Been privileged to work with. Okay, no. You are a privilege and an honor and a pleasure to work with. Okay,
you are just a gorgeous human.
The only thing we can do is augment what you're putting out there. Like you have always been seen, at least by us, and Josh, I'm speaking for you at this moment, if I can. You've always been seen as a leader in the industry, as somebody that people can go to, as somebody that actually turns the flashlight on at the end of the tunnel and says, "Hey, come this way. Bring your masses. We want to teach. We want to train." And there are not enough people in our industry that take that role, in my own humble opinion, not speaking for Josh, that take that role of, let me bend over backwards to help you. Down the road, you may be able to pay it back for somebody else. So let me take that chance. And Danny, we seriously applaud you for doing that 100%.
I just do stupid human tricks and hope people laugh at it, and then it sticks with them. Like, dude, no. Super stupid human tricks too. Like there's video. There's
okay. So the hot pepper at 2 a.m. I will admit the hot pepper at 2 a.m. was all right. That's a stupid human trick. I'm not going to lie. But doing the 24-hour charity streams for Belize, for schools,
that was so much fun.
That was a lot of fun, and you did a great job, and you worked really well. And I can only assume that your wife is incredibly tolerant.
She understands now. A couple years ago, maybe not, but now she gets it. And now I make schedules, and I say I'm going to be doing this. And our son's a little older now, so it's a little easier. But yeah, that's what I like, and it's proved to be an effective thing across the board. Like you bring people together and give them something to listen to that's not the same canned stuff. You're going to get somewhere, even if it's just that one person.
Rock and roll, brother.
You're making a lot of great points, and there's there's science behind what you're describing. This is not. I've been sort of a student of effective communication skills for several years now. And there's no need to dwell on, there's an exact name for all this stuff. But I mean, what you're describing is, how you make yourself available to people, how you make yourself approachable to people, because people are naturally drawn to that. Especially, our community to some extent has a reputation for people being introverted. I think there's a lot of introverts in our community, very extroverted introverts sometimes, but we're all a little bit uneasy with putting ourselves out there. Yes,
Jeff. How do you know if you're talking to an extroverted introvert?
I don't know how.
They look at your shoes when they're talking to you.
There's a good indicator. But thank you for the interruption and the
of course,
jarring.
Every time.
The point I'm trying to make is what you're doing puts people at ease, makes people think, oh, this is somebody that's just a real person. I can approach them, and that's huge in the industry. I would venture to say that your techniques, your approaches might vary slightly depending on who it is you're trying to reach at any given time. Like, or maybe not. I mean, do you do superhuman tricks for the executives that you're trying to, talk to in an official capacity as part of Splunk?
So one of the most important things that I learned going through just learning security and being in the industry. So I've never been like professional level social engineer, right? There are people that do that. It's an important part of a lot of offensive programs and things like that. I've never couch this with, I've never done it professionally. I've studied it a whole lot because it's an interest of mine, and I had opportunity to take some very valuable classes a bunch of years ago from Chris Adnaghi. And one of the things that has stuck with me, like, there are things that you learn that you were X person before you learned them, and you were X person after you learned them. And this was one of those things about how to listen to people, like active listening. I always considered myself a good listener. People have I always come to you and I can talk to you. But man, actually learning about actively listening and not just waiting for your turn to talk was a game changer. And the other one was how people give and receive information. It was huge for me, which really translates to the whole compliance, talking to executives, people who don't talk tech, because you have to, if you care about something, you have to make them care in a language that they are going to understand, so you get to a common ground. So how I deliver a certain thing, and we did exercises, man. So this was down in Florida. He held these classes in Orlando, and he puts you into teams, and he makes you go out and get flags from people, like talking to complete strangers and learning body language and learning how to approach people. When I first did it, I failed completely because of the whole extroverted. I had this idea of a story and blah, blah, blah. When really, if you just talk to, certain people just want to be talked to very casually or quietly. And I was like, wow, I blew that one. So yes, how people give and receive information has translated and just been so incredibly valuable to me, and being able to get what I need, or get what I think, what I'm advocating as the best solution for something, figuring out how they want to receive that information, what they're going to care about. And that's just, again, certain things you learn. I was a different person before I started studying that stuff, and that's really helped me everywhere.
What was your buddy's
funny
class?
that you're. Oh, I'm sorry, Kat.
What was your buddy's class?
So it's Chris Adnaghi. He does has a social engineering company, and it was intro to social, or like associate. I forget what he calls them. The second one is like his master class or whatever, where he takes these principles.
I think Chris is teaching the social engineering village at Security Weekly Unlocked in December.
Yes, and he also runs the SE Village at DEF CON every year, and formerly DerbyCon. But yeah, and these are just principles, and yes, those classes cost money, and not a lot of people can travel and do money and stuff. So I try to take the resources that I learned and say, well, Danny, how'd you learn that stuff? Well, check out these books, or you read these things about this, and read these principles, and get a good grasp on it. But yeah, it's been amazing, like absolute game changer for me in personal, professional, everything.
Oh, Chris is not doing anything at Unlocked, but Chris Adnaghi, you could do something at Security Unlocked. I'm just saying, man.
I feel like I at least saw his talk at InfoSec World a year or two ago, so I don't know if maybe that was where he's done training courses in the past.
He did.
I'm sure he's out there somewhere.
Yeah, he did something at InfoSec World, I think 3 years ago. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
yeah, time is a blur. I was going to say, Danny, that it's interesting that you were describing this class and learning some of these sort of fundamental interpersonal communication skills. It's a challenge, and I'm perhaps going to put on my curmudgeon hat here for a minute, but I grew up in a time where there were no personal devices. If you wanted to listen to music, you had to plug something into a wall and have these big, vinyl discs that spun around. portable radios were sort of a new thing when I was a kid. I have been amazed, and I'll try not to make this a value judgment, but I have been amazed at how quickly our society is transformed, and we now have generations of people growing up that their primary method of communication is online, social media, and things related to that, or talking in a virtual reality world, and things that I took for granted as an older human being because I learned at an early age how to interact with people and learned how to read facial expressions, body language, and all sorts of things like that. It's stuff that's second nature to me because of a generational thing. I find it fascinating. It's not a value judgment. I find it's fascinating that that's something now that has to be taught to younger people because it's not something we do anymore as a matter of course.
Right. It's the same thing as, kids that are going to be driving soon. Every car has backup cameras. So now, whereas we, back in our day, we would have to do checking the blind spots and doing this. And now that's second nature.
Fogey.
Yeah, I know, right? Back in my day, I had to look
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Oh, I'm turning 40. It just sucks. But yeah, and then I've definitely noticed back when we could go out in the world and the younger and younger generationally, not saying again not derogatory in nature, but there is a little bit of something that gets lost when you spend so much time. And now that we've all been cooped up for an entire year, I think a lot of us lost that too. We're getting into that now, getting a taste of that growing up just digitally. So now having to acclimate back to that's going to be interesting.
Got you. Hey, let's take a quick break. We'll come back shortly and continue the conversation. Somebody on the Discord server has a topic suggestion. We'll spring that on you when we start out the second segment. So we'll be right back.
We're proud to announce CISO Stories, a new podcast series in partnership with Cybersecurity Collaborative and Cyber Reason. CISO Stories features the candid perspectives and experiences of frontline senior security executives and dives deep into timely security topics. CISO Stories is hosted by Todd Fitzgerald, VP of Cybersecurity Strategy at Cybersecurity Collaborative, and Sam Curry, Chief Product and Security Officer at Cyber Reason. Listen weekly as they speak with extraordinary CISOs by visiting securityweekly.com/CSP.
Welcome back to Security and Compliance Weekly. We're talking to Danny Akacki. He is a security advocate at some little company called Splunk. We're going to get back to the conversation in just a moment, but first we have a few more announcements. Security Weekly is more than happy to announce that we will be at InfoSec World 2021 in person, and that'll be October 25th through 27th, 2021. This year, our annual partnership with InfoSec World is extra special, as we are both business units now under a company called the Cyber Risk Alliance. What does that mean for Security Weekly listeners and InfoSec World attendees? Glad you asked. You will get to see and hear from many of the Security Weekly team at the event, and you will save 20% off of the World Pass. You can take advantage of this discount by registering at securityweekly.com/ISW2021. And in general, if you want to stay in the loop on anything Security Weekly, you should go to securityweekly.com/subscribe. There you can subscribe on your favorite podcast catcher or on our YouTube channel. You can sign up for our mailing list, join our Discord server, and follow us on Twitch. All right, let's get back to talking to Mr. Rando Danny Akacki. One of our listeners on the Discord server who joined late because, a lot of us have day jobs. No apologies necessary. Was getting caught up, asking what the topic was, and they asked if the idea of mentorship has come up in the conversation. So I want to put that as a question to you, just to get the ball rolling in our second segment. What do you see as the role of mentoring in terms of spreading the word, spreading the message, and teaching and communicating all things cybersecurity related to the masses? Danny.
Super, super important. I have seen mentorship been done well, and I've seen it not been done well. It's actually not as simple as I initially had envisioned it. So speaking of mentorship, I'm actually on a mentorship panel that got spun up at the virtual DEF CON last year with the Village for the Blue Team Village. I can't even talk today. So the crew over there has started a cyber mentorship program, and I've seen a lot of different people spin up their own. I think it's incredibly, incredibly important because, like I mentioned earlier, the reason that I do the stuff that I do in the streaming and the blogs or whatever is for posterity for later for people, but then there's also that one-on-one connection because of how people give and receive information and how they learn it. Some people don't learn it that well from watching a video or just reading a thing. They need somebody there to explain those things to them because we don't all learn everything the same way. So I love doing that stuff. One of my favorite things that I've done is I've talked to a couple grades of high schoolers and middle schoolers, right? That's a form of mentorship right there. Or just having that one-on-one experience and helping guide somebody who's newly coming into this industry. I just, again, sounding very, very old, I want to give them what I never had. I had a lot of people to look up to. I had a lot of people to learn from, but I never really had a set person that I know I could go to and check in at regular intervals and saying, am I doing the right things? Why didn't this work? Or what am I doing? Maybe not wrong, but what can I change, right? And getting life experience back from them. And I think we're getting better at that. I think we have a long, long way to go, but there are some people doing it very well. But it's at such a scale now. It's in such need that it's not even being close to being filled. It's not easy because some people say they want it and then they don't show up, or they want a lot and that one person can't give it to them. So it is a very difficult but important thing. And I've been involved in a few different groups and tries at it. I think it's one of the most important things that needs more love than I think we can even give it right now.
Yeah, totally. Because on top of so I mentor a couple of women and things like that in InfoSec that are coming up. And you're right. It is pretty difficult, but it's needed, and I think that one of my challenges too with mentorship, especially if I'm going to really invest a lot of time into a person, is are they still interested, engaged in doing the work, right? And so there's that kind of to contend with too. It's great for somebody to have interest, but one of the things that I try to balance is, are they taking time away from me that somebody else would really benefit from, And so how do you kind of I'm assuming you've got a bunch of mentees as well. Kind of I'm curious how you manage that, because I'm kind of new to this mentorship game myself. So
Sure. Currently, no. I had a couple people at once, and then I've had a lot of people that have started or said, "Oh, this is cool. We got matched up. I'm really busy," or I just wanted to know if I could get somebody, and then I never hear from them again.
Right.
And right, and then I'm like, well, that's fine. Like, I don't take it personally. Like, that's fine. The thing with mentorship is it's very much like trying to find like a good therapist, right? Like, so I love I had a great therapist, but I went through like 7 before you find that match. And it's because of the nature of it. It is a very personal thing. And sometimes personalities don't clash, or like it just like chemically it just doesn't work, right? So that could be very difficult. And then a lot of people are like, they're the helpers, right? They want to help as many as they can, and then they oversubscribe themselves. And you know, so it's important. I think that the people over at the Blue Team Village are doing it incredibly well, because it needs a structure. It needs a quarterback, right? Just like a sports analogy. It needs somebody to shepherd it. It needs a structure. It needs somebody to say, you have 1 person, you have 2 people. You should not have 10 people. You shouldn't have any, because like not everybody's a mentor. But yeah, so yeah, that structure is super important. It's cool to do it on your own too, like to take somebody kind of under your wing or whatever. But it takes care and attention. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I've never had more than 2, because I know personally, like I don't have, you know, that mental space and that bandwidth. So good for you, guy. Like, I have such respect, Kat. So like, it's not easy. Like it can be a very draining thing, but it's
definitely,
so crucial.
Definitely. So I kind of see it. For me, I kind of see it. I'm also in a recovery, very open about being in a recovery program. I see it almost as sponsorship, right?
Yeah.
Like to get through certain hurdles and things like that, you might need a sponsor. So the people that I've met that I mentor are people that like I've worked with. Like that's the first class of people, is like people at for example, Cloudflare. I worked at Cloudflare for a little bit. There was a tech support guy that really wanted to get into security. And so that was one person that I was like, all right, cool. Like mentor you, you know, and got him into the department and stuff like that after about a year of kind of training him off hours. And then, and mostly it's funny because I kind of did that for selfish reasons as well. I really needed help. You know, and sometimes the best people to pull from are those customer service, tech supporty kind of people that are just getting started in their career. Yeah. But then like other people I pull that I've met and stuff like that, it's usually in person at a conference or something like that. I'll get somebody's number. They seem really interesting, and then I'll offer it, kind of a thing. But no. So what is the Blue Team? You were saying the Blue Team Village does Blue like Team a more structured type of thing?
Yes. So they started it last year during the virtual DEF CON. I was on one of their panels, and then that's when they announced their mentoring thing. I'm not sure where it is still going. They do have a Discord. So all the links and stuff off the top of my head, I don't know them. But I do know is an ongoing thing. It takes, like I said, a lot of care and feeding. But I would suggest looking it up. Go find them on Twitter. And then, find their Discord. A lot of amazing people there. So I haven't had any active mentees over the past like 8-9 months, because I'm losing my mind like the rest of us were. So it's like everything went on pause, and I'm like, I'm just trying to keep my dogs alive right now.
Well, it's funny that you'd say that, because I'm sitting here listening to what you're talking about and helping people and reaching out. And Kat, we completely applaud your effort. Keep it up. Don't stop. You're doing great. But there's another side of security, and especially with the pandemic that we've been dealing with, where we've been cut off with friends, we've been cut off from family, that we don't often talk about, and that's dealing with depression, dealing with the anxiety of what's going on, dealing with the missing of the human element. And Danny, I know you do a ton of outreach, and I'm pretty sure that people can reach out to you and can reach out to me and reach out to Josh and Jeff and Kat and Flea and whoever else for help. But there are organizations out there that will help you through a lot of this. And some of them, the mental health hackers with Amanda Berlin are doing amazing, amazing things. It's not just you in this fight. If you're listening or you're watching this, please, if you need help, reach out, because we give our time to people just to make them feel good, because that is chicken noodle soup for our soul, right, Danny?
Listen, here is the thing. One of the things I love about the industry and like hackers and everything is we are a very flamboyant people. We can put such a shiny veneer on things and have very boisterous personalities and branding and shows and doing like I run my contest at DEF CON. Like, we're very good at being showmen, like myself and Lintile and Hacker Jeopardy and all these types of things. But here's the thing. I am still the kid, mid-20s or whatever, on the train going to Philly, like standing hardcore Paul.com, right? I am still that person, and we are all like we're still human. We're still those people. We still all have these things. Casper, like you said, I about 3 or 4 years ago, I did a whole mental health kick, and then Amanda did something way better, and mental health hackers is now a fully 401(c) or whatever it is.
501(c)(3). Yeah.
501(c)(3).
Yeah, whatever it is. We're all like this. We're all human. And some people, they don't want to talk about it, and that's fine. They don't have the mental, space for it, and that's fine too. But I've always been when I went through my own stuff, I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it for people who can't talk about it for any number of reasons, right? There's one of my favorite talks, and I never push anybody to go see any talk or watch any talk that I've ever done. I'm not that person. But there is one on this particular topic that I did at Circle City Con called The Never Ending Hack, Mental Health in InfoSec. And that's the one that if I push anything, that's the one I would love people to go watch, because it's not only my story, it's a lot of our stories. So yes, we all have it. We all deal with it. There's no shame in it. And I think the overarching thing is always be aware that you're not seeing everything. You might see my highlights. You might see my cool stuff that I do on Twitter or whatever, or things I'm proud of, but you don't see the blooper reels a lot of times. Well, with me you do. But you don't see the ultra fails. I've never shown a picture of me crying in a shower. It's happened, but because mostly because Twitter won't let me. But it's there and it's happened. It's gotten very ugly, but I got on the other side. So yes, this all goes hand in hand.
When you find yourself in your darkest moment and you feel like the world is caving in on you, reach out to somebody and say something. We're in this together. Everybody has their own tornado of friends that they can talk to about this stuff, and don't be shy. Address it. It's the only way we can heal.
I echo that, but I think there's more to it.
I was just about to say.
I'll say and then see if you say the same thing, Kat, or you can build on what I'm saying. But I too have had many people approach me over the last couple of years asking to be mentored, and I'm kind of like, sure. I don't know what that means. I don't know what's involved in it. I don't know if there's a manual somewhere on how to be a mentor. But in terms of sort of living life, since I've been living life a little bit longer than most of you, I would say that there's at any given moment, at any point in time, I'll speak for myself. I'm always a student. I'm always learning, and so there's people ahead of me that I look up to, that I'm aspiring to be more like them or learn from them. But there's also people behind me that are looking at me and paying attention to what I do. So in that sense, I'm whether I'm formally mentoring people or not, people are watching and people are paying attention. So I think in that respect, it's important for us to be deliberate. Doesn't mean you have to be a certain way and act a certain way. I would say the biggest thing is to be consistent with who you are, whatever it is you're doing. But to what you were just saying, Scott, in terms of the reaching out, yes, that's important. But I think we too, it's easy to say, well, they didn't seek help, but there's a certain amount, if we're honest with ourselves, damn it, why didn't I see it?
Unfortunately, hindsight, I'm sorry, Jeff, I have to say it. Unfortunately, hindsight is always going to be 20/20. So when you're in the moment, you have to be able to recognize that taking back a step and saying, I'm under a lot of pressure right now, and I could really use someone to vent to, or these thoughts that I'm having of self-worth and self-skill are not healthy. How can I find somebody that can help me heal what's going on internally? And then once I know I've healed, how can I pay it back to somebody else that may be in the same position? That's where I'm headed with all of this. And Danny's Twitch, Danny himself, and everybody over at Splunk, the evangelists, all of the upper echelon of the hacker community, we're more than willing to sit down and listen to somebody and try and help heal. And that's the most important piece about all of this, is healing. We're going to get back into the swing of conferences. I mean, we're hearing rumblings of what Q3, the conference industry is just going to explode. We're starting to see security conferences come back online, but it's managing the damage that really needs to be paid attention to. And I really, in my own humble opinion, not representing any of you, I don't think we do enough of it in the industry, as either being able to point the way in the dark for somebody new, or being able to say to somebody, hey, I noticed that you're not having an easy time right now. How in the hell can I get through to you, and how can I help? We have a lot of people in this industry that say, well, how can you help me? But not enough people to say, how can I help you?
I think we're trying to get to the same point, Scott, in that, and this is going back to what Danny was talking about, or what we were talking about in the first segment, of doing crazy stuff and being crazy and putting yourself out there. I think that's part of, putting people at ease so that they can come forward. But I told my children when they were a younger age, one night over dinner, I was being reflective, and I said something to the effect of, you can go really far in life if you just pay attention. If you want to get not that my children are trying to get ahead of everybody else, but that's sort of a capitalist idea. But if you want to excel and be the best you can be in life, pay attention. I don't always do it well myself, but over the years, when I go into a new circumstance, if I'm going to a conference, if I'm hanging out in LobbyCon, I very often like to stay on the fringe. That's my personal comfort zone, is to just be on the outside looking in and just observing, being more of a publicly known person these days. Lately of old, it's been harder to do that because people recognize me and they want to engage me, which is fine. But I spent a lot of years just sort of standing on the outside looking in and just observing, and it's not hard to pick up on the nonverbal cues of people that are hurting, that are just like me. They're not feeling part of the group, and they're kind of on the fringe. I think I'll go hang out with them because we can feel like outsiders together. But it starts with just being intentional and paying attention and being aware. And I think, to echo what you're trying to say, Scott, is don't put it on yourselves that you have to find everybody and see everybody. But what a world it would be if the next hacker conference that we all get to show up at, we're all paying attention to one another and forgetting our status and stature and where we are in line, or the pecking order, or the perceived famedom, or whatever you want to call it. And we're just, hey, how you been? What's life been like for you the last month, years? And don't say I can help you. I mean, the biggest help I think we can give to people, and maybe this is what mentoring is just being an ear to listen to, a shoulder to cry on, or someone to say, to celebrate with and celebrate the good things that are happening.
Right. And also making it known, because like Kat is doing an amazing job with what she's dealing with, and she's helped so many people. Kat, I've heard you talk about horror stories and war stories and I'm using that as a euphemism here, of people that you've talked with and you've helped them heal, and they've been better for it, and that in turn has helped to heal you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So
with me, some of the things from the more mental health discussion here, it is so I put myself out there privately, but out there as somebody that does openly have bipolar 2, is openly in a recovery program, that sort of stuff, and I'll get 20 maybe public, maybe private kind of comments about if I'm talking about something real like that, right? Maybe one of those comments might be, haha, you're a crazy bitch. But the other 19 are usually people that are like, I feel exactly that way and have not seen anybody admit to something like that. And then we'll get to talking. You know what I mean? And so I guess with my style of, mentorship is some of these folks want to get to a recovery program, so I'll help them with that. Some of these folks don't know that they have now a mental illness and they don't know the ins and outs of it. Like these days you can get a DNA test to see what kind of, med you're supposed to be on mentally. That's great. That's gonna, that's a lot better than 10, 15 years ago where you're playing pill roulette to solve a mental illness problem. And, that's an issue. And some people don't know that. So I like getting that opportunity to tell them that kind of stuff. But then there's also some people that are like, yeah, I'm affected by these things. I get to know them a little bit better, and they could use some help in their career, which would definitely help with maybe depression and anxiety and that sort of thing too, I hear what you're saying, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how can we make a serious impact? And I will pledge right now here, if for the rest of time, 100% approachable. If you need help, just ask. And that's from me to everybody who's listening and all the future listeners. If you need help, you see me at a conference, look for the guy with the dreadlocks. I'll definitely give you a hand.
Even though he looks like he could bunch you up into a ball and stuff you in a locker, he's really pretty approachable.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody when you're dealing with mental health, you're in your own head. Am I worth it? Is this something that I want to do? Do I want to keep going with this thing, or do I just want to say, fuck it and cut bait? But how we help people is really what drives the passion, right, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, not for everybody, but I know for me, again, it's always that one ephemeral person, no matter what I do, as long as it helps, that one person. And I hope to one day be the elder statesman that I see in Jeff Mann, just doing his circles around the conference and being like that sage. Like he's like every like NPC wizard in every game you've played that you just got to go up and talk to when you got to go find something out, or he just kind of wanders around. Did you just call
him a non-playable character?
I would never try to play Jeff Mann. Would you?
I mean, sometimes
I don't think
it's
anybody
Jeff
can
Mann.
play Jeff Mann except Jeff Mann.
This edition of Stump the Grump.
Seriously, we need a challenge coin or a 3D figure for you, Jeff, because this is ridiculous.
But I would like to challenge all of you here on this show right now to also make that pledge and say, yes, openly, you are approachable, and that people can say hello, and that if they need help, just ask. I'd like to challenge all of you to openly pledge that.
My nickname is the InfoSec Therapist. Everybody knows they can call me. I've been called by dozens of people over the years, and I've helped many, 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 many people. Kat has mentored scads of people. Danny, I know you have as well. Jeff, I apologize. I don't know your mentorship history as well as I do the others.
I thought you were going to say my mental history. But that's okay.
It's a different question. It's a different question.
Jeff's
But
just like, don't bother
absolutely,
me.
yeah, of
I'm
course.
too old.
Anybody
Just
that
go
needs
away.
help, let us know, please.
It's the NPC part of Jeff.
Well,
of
Go
course,
ahead, Kat.
I pledge this. Of course, like if you're at a conference, you see me, I'm the girl with the purple hair. Just come up and talk to me about whatever. Of course.
The Cat, not for nothing, the girl with the purple hair in our community.
Yeah, right.
I'm supposed to narrow it down.
There's not just one of them, let's be clear.
There's going to be 35 people finding you later that be like, why does everybody think I'm you?
Purple hair.
Look for the heavyset guy wearing black and has a beard. There's not,
And is usually out front smoking a cigar.
that might help a little bit, but so we need to wrap these things up. I'll give you the final thought, Danny, but just to sort of serve it up for you, I find it fascinating that our discussion about security evangelism somehow morphed over to helping people out as human beings, which I think is something that within the hacker community is something that we think kind of sets us apart. But because I was on the outside looking in for so long, I see it, but I also think we're just a microcosm of the human race. That we have people from all walks and phases and stages of life, and sometimes we do really well at helping each other out, and sometimes we really suck at it, and somehow. I see this in my security evangelism. Somehow I see security in the things that we do and the idea of protecting privacy and rights and secrets and data and securing things and putting things out there. Somehow it's this magical metaphor for life, which is... I find it fascinating. I enjoy meeting people and talking to people and hearing their experience. And if I chuckle sometimes, it's because you think you're unique. But I know 500 people that are just like you, and y'all don't know how much you have in common. Let's all get together and find out just how much the same we are, which is mostly neurotic and insecure and depressed and things like that. But every once in a while, the sun shines. And there's positives too, but the positives I think we find in finding out that we're a lot more alike than we are different, and those are things to celebrate. But that's my take on it, and I'm not trying to preempt you, Danny, but give us a few final thoughts because we need to wrap up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that this conversation took an amazing turn because too often, yes, we can kind of go haha and poke fun at like the whole evangelism title. I happen to like it. I take it very seriously because of these things. If you are not doing your evangelism job with the aim overall, whether it's personal or business, to help somebody, and you're just shilling or you're slinging FUD or you're just like a voice box for a talking point, then you're not doing your job. Like, I think if you could take pride in that evangelism work, if you have the core belief that you want to go help somebody. And I think that is the overall tying thing. I think evangelism conversations can lead very naturally, like we just did, into generally mentorship and helping people. I think as long as you have that core goal and you're not just shilling things, I love the title evangelist, and I think that that's what it should be about.
All right, that's going to wrap us for today for Security and Compliance Weekly. Danny, thank you so much for joining us. Long overdue, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime, and hopefully we'll see each other in person sometime soon. Stay tuned. Next week we're going to have a special episode, just to give a little bit of a tease. We're going to have one of the people from one of the main certification bodies come on talking about all the great things that you can do with certification. I have a few questions. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.